Hey everyone, in this series we're going to be talking about the book called Peopleware by Tom Demarco and Timothy Lister. It's a really great book. I'm really excited to share with you what I've been reading in it, what I've been thinking about it. It's a pretty long book, and so I think this series is going to take a while to get through all the way, but there's so much good stuff to be learned, and I think it's definitely made me a better person in the working environment, in the office environment. I think even though it's oriented more towards people who are managers than people who are individual contributors, I think that reading this and understanding it will put you, if you're not already in a management position, maybe you will be someday. It'll help you be more equipped um, to to fill that role when it's your time to do that. So that's the intro. Chapter one is called Somewhere Today, A Project is Failing. And so they start right off by saying, and this is a point that will get hammered quite a bit throughout the book, but they say, politics more than technology are to blame for projects when they fail, project failure. And software, to a great extent, is a solved problem. People can write software. And whatever language you choose to use is, in all likelihood, going to be good enough for what you're trying to accomplish. Unless you pick PHP, in which case you've played yourself, and now is a good time to just pack it in and go home. I'm kidding, of course. Facebook was built with PHP, but other than that, if you if you're not Facebook and you picked PHP, you probably played yourself. But anyways, so the authors start out by saying that they interviewed people from over 500 software projects to hear what went well, to hear what went poorly, and so on. And this is what they found. For 15% of them, these projects, they failed entirely. And in those 15%, technology was never the reason. And so the thesis of this book, of Peopleware, the thesis of the book is this, and I quote, "The major problems of our work are not so much technological as sociological in nature. And further, that managers tend to spend most of their time and effort on thinking about technology, architecting their systems, and so on, than helping their people become more productive and removing roadblocks." So there's your thesis right there, right? Now at the same time, it's important to not put people management as a field of study on a pedestal as this panacea for all your problems, because it can be done wrong. And I have experienced that too. I've experienced an engineering team grow to the point that they added 2 layers of management, and that was devastating for the team because one of those layers wasn't needed. And since all he did was think about managing people, the only way he could, well, I guess you could say, quote unquote, add value, the only way he could do that was to make people sit in a lot more meetings and try to cause trouble. And he could have been great, but he just made everyone's work lives a lot worse. So that's an odd disclaimer to be giving at the beginning of a book that's ostensibly about how great people management is. But I think that it's important to sort of take it in context and say, just because you put time and energy into thinking about people and their work interactions doesn't mean that just de facto you're going to be great at it. And so it's important to also approach this exercise with some spirit of humility and sort of understanding that you and I are finite people, and the best that we can do is to want to make the lives of the people that are around us better. We want to be a source of light and life, and this is true in work. This is true with our other relationships, with our friends, with our family, local communities that we're a part of. It's true everywhere. This book, of course, focuses on the work environment. But I wouldn't be surprised if you especially if you do open source software projects, this could probably be applied elsewhere also. So anyways, near the end of the chapter, the authors make an interesting point, which is that we as tech workers claim to be in the tech industry, and that is somewhat of a misnomer, although it does sound nice. In reality, the people who create technology are people who do basic research, and we, the coders, are just applying others' research. We're mostly in the human communication business. So actually, let me back up a sentence or two. Um, when like new technology is being created, so that would be like, the guy who invented Ruby, or the guy who invented, whatever programming language, right? But for you and I, in most cases, we're just using somebody else's coding technology and applying it to a business model, or like empowering a business model to work in the real world. So we're mostly in the communication business, they assert, the authors assert. And if you think about that, that's kind of a paradigm shifting, uh, you know, realization, because that will force us to think a little bit more about the people, whether it's our stakeholders, whether it's our coworkers, whether it's our customers, and so on. Most of us, are ultimately making nice interfaces to databases and shuttling data around, which is highly valuable, don't get me wrong, but it isn't totally new and innovative and unseen before. So all that to say, think about the people. They're going to be the source of your project's success or failure. That's what you need to that's what you need to execute well on. All right, that's all for chapter 1. I'll see you all in the next video.